Roane State is from Fentress County. And she came to us via her CPA, trying to get the family farm book straightened out. And he sent her to us. And from that, she strengthened her family farm business enough to be able to purchase the Clark Range Fentress County Farm and Seed Store. And so we'll start that video. Here, hang on one second until he switches it over. We're ready to switch it over.
When I first started here, it was me, myself, and I doing everything as most people do when they begin a business.
I got the wrong introduction.
And we found a lot of hurdles with opening a school in general. And so instead of being able to step back and take the role of owner-director, I was teaching, directing, admin, you name it. That was my job. And soon enough, of course, funds got really tight. And we kind of found ourselves in between a rock and a hard place of how do we grow? What do we do next? How do we make this happen where the state is satisfied, we're satisfied? And so honestly, I was just searching for answers for many things. And I found myself at a Young Professionals Alliance. And Holly Hansen from Roane State was there serendipitously talking about different types of grants that she had come encounter with, and specifically the work grant and all the classes offered at Roane State. And so that just led me down a new path of maybe if we do some different training, reach out to different people, this will help us grow. So we started our process of seeing if we could qualify for the funding from the work grant, and that's gotten us where we are now. Licensing and regulations for school is challenging as it is, especially with inspections for buildings and whatnot. So we really wanted to take our program outside. We wanted to be more of a nature-based school, which is growing a lot, and especially in Tennessee, but the United States in general. And so I hadn't had any formal education in outdoor school. And we found a Forest Teacher Institute out of Chattanooga that was doing a lot of really good work with public schools as well as private schools and homeschools and all types of education. And the work grant helped us to be able to take advantage of their teacher trainings. We've had several now, as well as director trainings through the work grant. And it really opened us up to being able to expand our program, add on staff, and take our program where it is now and where it's going, which was never really the beginning vision. So it actually helped clarify a lot of our direction in general, being able to go to this training that I would have never been able to afford it at the time. So it would have never been an option otherwise. Just in general, this whole process has been wonderful for me. Everybody we've talked to and worked with through Roane State has been such a supporter. They feel like a friend. And it's been really nice to be able to help people in our community find new areas of interest that we could offer to come work at our school and use the funding from the work grants. So if you're interested in expanding your business, this is definitely a wonderful program, and you should look into it.
Michael, we good? The science on our panel on science is sponsored by the American Museum of Science and Energy out of Oak Ridge. If you get the opportunity, please visit that museum. It is exceptional. It's well curated, it's well thought out, it's well designed, and it's just absolutely fascinating in the way that it tells the story of Oak Ridge's primary role in the development of nuclear technology. Our panel today is moderated by the Honorable Wade Cresswell. Thank you. Appreciate that presence. Wade Cresswell is the mayor of Roane County, after which our college is named. He He has an associate's degree from Roane State, one of our proud alums, a Bachelor of Science from East Tennessee State University, and a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Tennessee. After coming home from ETSU, he worked at Roane Medical Center as an RN in critical and emergency care, and that led to a 25-year career of opportunities in leadership and management positions at the Michael Dunn Center, the Roane Alliance, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and East Tennessee Children's Hospital. He previously served on Kingston City Council from 2003 to 2007, and while serving as the president and CEO of the Roane Alliance. During that time, Roane County added over 700 industrial jobs and grew the membership of the Roane Chamber by over 100 members. We're so happy to have you as our moderator today, Wade. Our other panelists are Jeff Cornett, who, advance it. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Is Jeff Cornett, who has served on the Prior to joining Oak Ridge National Laboratory, he served in leadership roles in 9 years in private industry. He was the president and chief operating officer of the National Safe Skies Alliance, with responsibilities for developing collaborative relationships with aviation-related technology-based industries for universities and national labs. During this time, Jeff also spent time as a risk consultant with the American Bureau of Shipping, assigned to projects with the Department of Homeland Security, Railroad Research Foundation, maritime port operators, and numerous chemical industry clients, such as chemical manufacturers, oil and gas refineries, paper product manufacturers, and special material manufacturers, assisting them with government regulatory compliance. We have next Dr. Joseph Steinbeck IV, who is our program director for the next nuclear technology grant that I'm managing. So Dr. Joe and I spend quite a bit of time together, and it's going to keep going. Dr. Steinbeck has over 3 decades of direct operations experience in the nuclear industry, including significant component manufacturing and security-related programs and projects for the Department of Energy and other USG agencies. This includes nuclear operations experience in high-consequence nuclear facilities such as BWXT, Babcock-Wilcox, Nuclear Operations Division, the Y-12 National Security Complex, and the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. We're so happy to have Dr. Steinbeck on our faculty, and so happy to have him as our program director for that program, for the nuclear technology program. Next, we have Dr. George McGobgob, who is our professor in cybersecurity and Dr. McGobgob has developed probably one of the most robust and excellent cybersecurity education programs in the country. And we're so grateful to have him with us. I wish I had a little bit more robust descriptive to introduce you, but I'll let you do that if you'd like. And lastly, but not least, is Guilherme Garcia, who is a mechanical engineer graduating from Federal University in Sao João del Rei in Brazil, He was also an exchange student for 1 year at Tennessee Tech, and he has a Master's of Science in Industrial Engineering from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Guilherme is a part of our mechatronics program here at Roane State, and currently we are in the middle of developing for the workforce a set of curricula that is for our industrial employer partners at the level of advanced manufacturing from all levels of both skill development as well as integrating that in those industries and those businesses. So I'll turn it over at this point to you, Wade. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. First of all, I'm so honored to be asked to be a part of this panel. And if you have a fantastic panel before you, this is going to be an important conversation. And you may wonder, as I did at first, why in the world would a politician be moderating this panel? But I will say this, and it is because this very conversation is being had daily, right now. Even among officials in this room, while I've been in this room, we've had pieces of this conversation. This is at the heart of everything that we're doing right now to try to grow our local, regional, state, and even national economies. The conversations that you're going to hear today among this esteemed panel are a very important piece of how we plan to do that. So I don't want to waste time on me, but I want to jump right in and first of all introduce the heart of the matter of what we're trying to get at today is answering the question, what skills will we need to prepare the workforce in order to meet the opportunities and challenges of AI, of automation, of clean energy, and advanced manufacturing. Now, within that, there's a lot of components, and that's what we're going to dig into. So with that said, gentlemen, any comments before we start? Anything you'd like to say before we jump into the conversation?
No, honored to be here, so yes, thank you.
Thanks, Wade, for us. Thank you. And I will say this too, that the best panels are truly conversations. So feel free. I don't want to go one by one. Jump in. Let's just talk about this. That sound good? All right. So I'm going to just start with Jeff. Jeff and I have worked together and been friends for a long time. And I'm going to start with this question, but it's for all of you. So next one to jump in, you just take it from there. So Jeff Cornett, to my right, how do you see emerging technologies like AI, advanced automation, advanced manufacturing, clean energy affecting the future workforce at the national lab or in other public and private enterprises? And then a follow-up to that is what can we do as a community and region to prepare incumbent workers?
For us, since the pandemic, Oak Ridge National Lab has gone from about 4,500 employees to over 6,700 employees. And so when you talk about the why the increase through other programs, increased programs, more research, that put a significant demand on how we go and hire folks, how we find those folks. And for Oak Ridge National Lab, it's not just PhDs. We have PhDs that run programs. We have to have technicians that run equipment. We have to have craft folks that support those same missions by making sure facilities are right. So when you look at us, we have all of the needs that fit within what, Roane State, whoever, wherever we could go to find the people, we need that feedstock. So when you talk about it, just one example, right up the road here in Roane County is our carbon fiber pilot plant. It's a technology center to look at how can we look at carbon fiber and do research around carbon fiber. Well, because we're a Department of Energy facility, we have to look at that of how can we produce carbon fiber with all that fancy equipment, with the technicians that run it. We have to optimize the technicians' time and use. So we are automating and putting in sensors and other technologies to help the technicians who will need some of your all's training right down there, from that mechatronics class and sir down on the end. We have to have that kind of thing because we're putting these sensors in. And what we found, just some initial thing, is we have reduced the energy consumption of that facility by 40%. So when you talk about automation is not necessarily looked at to replace people. It's looked at to augment folks and to help the research element and to help us drive things that we can do research around to help drive the economy and more folks so we can put them on other tasks. So
Yeah, good. So I'll go next. Dr. Steinbeck?
Yes. I'm going to talk about a little bit different perspective, perhaps, on intersecting AI with education, and as that education prepares a student to go into the workforce. Just anecdotally, when I first became an engineer in the nuclear industry, my superiors would tell me, we're going to learn everything from the technician. The technician's going to spend all his time with you, and he's going to show you the ropes and show you everything. If I intersect that thought years ago with a recent meeting with TVA, where they just said that in order for us to get to SMR, small modular reactors, we're going to really need to rethink our workforce, and perhaps an engineer who has a 4-year degree may only need to have a 2-year degree. And so if I intersect AI with that is we bring up and tool up the technician skill and with the skills of automation, AI and other things. I think we're doing that. We're going to skill up the 2-year degree to be prepared to go into the workforce, and the HR of these companies can rethink to save costs, because that was TVA's point, is that in order to get there to save costs with SMRs, we're going to have to really rethink the workforce. So from my perspective, as I'm preparing the program at Rowan State for the 2-year degree program, we're going to prepare those students to almost be that 4-year degree to go in there and to be prepared in case the workforce changes and have a lot of automation that's intersecting that. So I just want to make that particular workforce point.
Okay. Thank you. So this morning I did a presentation on not where do I think AI is going to be in 2030. I did a presentation on the impact of AI already on large companies, companies that feel they're threatened every day. Their threat landscape because of cyber attack increases day by day. We talked about we're adding sensors, devices. It's great. These are intelligent, but their intelligence is going to be at risk, because the more you add sensors, the more you're going to open your threat landscape. I come in and I say, do I know my vulnerabilities of all these devices? Have I ran a program that tells me about their common exposure in case of an attack? Can I calculate my threat risk? And can I put a matrix together that says, this is my posture today, and what's going to be my posture after I bring people from Rowan State to R, will show me the way, they will tell me where I am right now, and how do I look like after I patched, minimized my risk, while keeping my devices available for service, etc. So the cybersecurity, what's cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is know your threats, know your vulnerabilities, know your risk, and jump in and add artificial intelligence to minimize your risk, because you've got so many devices, you've got a large infrastructure, you can't keep track of everything. But if you train your artificial intelligence program to know all of that, keep everything visible in front of you. Visibility, your network is visible, my devices are visible. I have endpoint protection at any time. It's a large matrix. I know who just got in, who just got out of my network. If I know all of this, I could visualize all of this. Now I'm better prepared for my next attack. So this is what I did my presentation this morning. Know my posture, know my risk, and how do I prepare for the next one? And in case I am attacked, in case I'm KUB and somebody just poisoned my water supply, how long would it take me to detect or protect from the next one? And how long can it take me to recover from such an attack? That's part of the conversation Oak Ridge National Lab ought to have. By the way, you hired 2 of my students in your program.
Keep making them.
Yes, and so the bottom line is ignorance is never a blessing when it comes to your cybersecurity risk, because a cybersecurity risk is a business risk. You could lose your business because you get to be hacked over and over again, and you never get up and use artificial intelligence tools to help you look better, help you stand on your feet and face the next one.
Great answer. Jeremy? We'd shift that microphone down that way. There you go.
Thank you, Jordan. So everybody talks about automation. Whenever we have visitors that come in and they walk for our labs, and we have very good labs in mechatronics program, people ask, like, what's the coolest thing you saw? We saw the robots, and like Jeff mentioned, like we're automating, we're trying to reduce costs and to have more jobs here in Tennessee. So we in the mechatronics program say, how can we embed this for young age? How can we start teaching this in high school or K for 12? Like our chancellor, Department of Labor, brought this. Like, how can we make a very complex topic that's automation, it's data, for somebody that can understand? How can I go to my 5-year-old say, hey, he's a robot. Let me teach you how to program this thing. So whenever they go to the workforce, they are ready. And I think Round State is doing a very good job to create like very good curriculums that we can close that gap between the people that didn't know what a robot was or how to program a robot or even how to use a computer and be prepared for the next phase of the industry that they are calling 4.0 now.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. If you all saw what I saw, was there equal, were all of our opinions across the board, were they anywhere in the same perspective at all? They were completely four different perspectives, which I think shows you one of the challenges in this topic is everybody has their own perspective. So if we're talking to try to, as a community or as a region, align around how to approach this topic, which I believe will be the future determining factor on which communities rise and fall, on which communities handle this issue better than the others do. You see the challenges is that we have so many different perspectives, which for a panel is absolutely perfect. So I want you all to please keep that in mind and keep bringing your specific perspective. And then as we near the end of the discussion, we'll try to bring it back to get on the same page here. But with that in mind, let's jump to the heart of the matter. Because as we look at the different angles with which to look at this issue around workforce development and the ever quickly changing world of science, I want you to think about this question first, is what labor and workforce trends do you see directing education specifically? Some of you are in education, of course, but I want you to think about education broadly, as going all the way back to kindergarten, if necessary. What trends in what you're doing are or should be guiding and directing education, but also talk about specifically here at Roane State too.
Can I jump in? And
Please, you
say,
lead the way, Dr. Gopta.
So we have been leading the way, I think, Roane State, even during COVID-19, cybersecurity camps. Y12 funded us. I do one for middle school, high school. So a conversation about cybersecurity, you know, from them, I could tell their parents talk all the time about it. And when they come to me, they don't, it's not a multiple choice thing. Let's download the software. Let's explore what, maybe companies don't know that. What is the latest protocol that attacked my sensor? Do I know that? So these students are engaged in a conversation that companies ought to have around, cybersecurity, posture, etc. I'm proud of being a professor at Roane State Community College, and I engage my students to get to do the latest in the tools, software tools that allow us to not just, discover weaknesses, vulnerabilities, but also I have a lab that allows them to attack a PLC, right? Attack a 3D printer. What kind of weaknesses, how can we prepare them to attack so they could defend better and be prepared for the next attack? So learning, education, training, whether it's summer camps, everything that I do in my lab, etc. I always acquire new technology and show vulnerabilities so we attack them better, learn find their weaknesses, and prepare for the big next attack on any device, any network, any router, any switch, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, sure. In the nuclear industry, and Commissioner Thomas mentioned this, one of our challenges in the school system is to educate and to motivate students at an early age that nuclear is not scary and it's nothing to be afraid of. So my personal theme is, in the Oak Ridge area, the theme is nuclear. It's here, but my personal one is take the fear out of it. So I think one of the biggest challenges from my perspective, as an educator, and as I'm starting a program that we're focused on clean energy, taking care of the environment, working on SMRs, we're going to need people, and the workforce is something we need to work on. And with that said, we need to zero in starting at the middle school, and Roane State's doing that with the lab in a box the nuclear one that's there, which is excellent. Sylvia Pastor's got that going. And carrying that to the next level to the high school and perhaps, having a middle college or dual enrollment. So we were looking at all of those things to motivate. Not quite on the steroids that George has, but I hope to get there and perhaps, having a lot of things going on in high school. So we're reaching out to the high schools. We're developing creative ways. We're working with some modules for the American Nuclear Society. One of the things that we want to do is create some type of what I call roadshow. We've done it in the past a lot by taking detectors and some radioactive materials, but I want to carry that to another level with intersecting that with megatronics and having some robots there with some detection equipment and giving it to them, to the students, to do something. Because it does intersect also with the soft skills piece. Give it to them to solve a problem such as finding radioactivity within a classroom. So the theme of my point is we have a challenge, and that is getting students interested in the nuclear field because of our workforce gap, and we're trying to do that.
Yep. Jeff?
Yeah, and kind of to follow on what Joe's talking about, nuclear is here, but you're exactly right. We've got to get that fear of what does that really mean, and us as a major employer, but also as an entity that's in the community, and we do economic development. We try to support our educational entities. We are kind of changing how we look at education. And because we have to hire people and because we need certain skills, we're trying to be more engaged with, Roane State and the community institutions by allowing employees to work with those educational institutions and to putting our employees into schools and trying to also go back to when you were at Oak Ridge, I think you managed some of our community outreach in trying to reach those STEM K through 12 educations. And years ago, we built, I call it a circus. It's these large, 20-foot long trailers that's a traveling science fair that we actually take to communities, and we're bringing that back. We're revamping them. We're creating some new ones that meet our mission, and we're going to be putting those in the community. And it's basically 7 or 8 trailers that when you set it up, it looks like the midway of a circus or something. And we put employees in those positions, and we get students from high schools and middle schools to come to those facilities and to walk through and learn what goes on in a research environment. So it's all mission focused for us. So, neutrons and materials and high performance computers and nuclear and AI and putting all that in there, because it is going to be important for us to try and grow the educational, because right now, we're in a position that if we go hire somebody, we're basically stealing them from somewhere else. I'm glad we've got a good supply of some cyber students, because we don't have to go to Amazon or some of these other places and steal people. Because that just promulgates the problem. So we try to figure out how we can support and fill the pipeline that you guys are trying to create.
Yeah. Gary, anything you want to add?
On the manufacturer side, the technology change is being very, very fast. And one thing that we're trying to make sure in the mechatronics program is to make sure that our curriculum is changing as well. Whenever you go to the lab, you see they're working very advanced things. We go to the local factories, and we try to connect what they're doing there to what we teach in the classroom. So I think this is a very important aspect. So we're not outdated, So when those guys get out there, they have the latest information, and they can actually go there and do their jobs.
So that's a perfect segue, because at the risk of Roane State kicking me out and never let me do this again, I'm going to go a bit off-road here, all right? Because I think there's an opportunity here to challenge my panelists in a way that's going to create a call to action for you as our attendees. And that is, the sense is, I'm sure it's reality, but you can confirm or deny this, but the sense is that technology and science is changing so rapidly that the changes in workforce aren't able to keep up with that. So talk about that, if you will, about how what your perception is of that being our reality and what you see we need to do as a community in a region to adapt or become more agile or whatever that needs to look like so that we are truly meeting our future workforce needs. Somebody jump in.
I think it's partly from some of the discussion this morning about educating students to adapt to change. And part of that is the intersection of, this is just my personal opinion, intersecting that with the soft skills. Not only soft skills of, we talked about this morning with, the parenting and things like that, but giving, it's like my stepson, he's got to fix his truck. He's got to fix a part on his truck where he needs to put some Bondo in there. The point is, give him the stuff and let him do it. And so I think it's the community, it's educators, it's the parents to try to make or try to educate students to be more agile. And so that would be my point to that.
Call to action, so like, what's the latest cyber attack on a nuclear facility? What can I learn out of it? How can I train my students to look at timeline, look at vulnerabilities when it was done? And the more I could glean out of that, I could train them to predict the next one. Because if you're a company, you got hacked. If you got hacked before, COVID, you're going to be hacked after COVID. If you have a, you have a Department of Defense grant money because you have a CUI, controlled and classified information. I do CMMC training. We got a grant to do training for the Department of Defense. And I tell them, if you were hacked before you had a CUI, you're going to be hacked after you had a CUI because you have something that is, confidential. You ought to take care of it, etc. Call to action is look at the latest attack that took place on, water companies, manufacturing companies. Learn out of it. Get the next, plan to face the same thing. Learn from them because you're going to be facing the same thing. One of my high school students. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
One of the high school students, I trained them, an hour and a half last week, 35 students out of Cumberland High School. One of the students at the end of my presentation said, so you're saying, I give you an operating system, I give you a network, I give you a switch and a router. You're telling me I could learn how to attack that so I could defend that. I said, yes. So we could simulate, right? And out of simulation, it's like you simulate, learn how to ride plane, right? So you learn that simulation, attack simulation should be critical. Phishing simulation should be critical. You could learn, write a small Python program. I did that this morning during my presentation. CVE, look at a CVE, look at them for the last year that you had them, what is left after a year, and you're gonna predict what's gonna happen to you the next year. Science is here, statistics is here. Doing all of this should be part of my curriculum in cybersecurity. Thank you.
Dr. McGee, can I dig into that just a little bit? So I have no doubt that once students reach you, that you're going to adequately prepare them in a very changing environment.
Challenging way even, yes.
Can you talk about the pipeline of students coming to you and the challenges to get, let me give you a little context here. I used to work with Dr. Jeff Nichols, who was the Associate Lab Director at Oak Ridge National Lab for Computational and Computing Sciences.
Yes,
And,
I know him. He sits on my advisory board.
right. So Jeff, he was he is a great presenter, but the one thing I remember seeing him present about, the one thing that keeps him up at night.
Is attacks.
No, it wasn't. It was workforce.
Okay.
It was workforce.
Meaning I'm not producing, he hired 2 of my students, by the way.
And he needs as many as possible.
Okay.
So once they get to you, you're doing a great job training them. I think what I'm interested in learning from you is is, are we doing enough as a community in public education or in our, as a region to get enough students to you? And if not, what can we do to change that?
I'd like UTK to be on the table. I mean, like
Sure.
everybody, all these people, Oak Ridge National Lab, everybody who is a part of this conversation should be on the table and say, Round State, how can we do to help the pipeline before they get to the place where, AI is as intelligent as what I do, right? And it helps me because big data and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's human intelligence. And I've said that this morning. In the 60s, we started artificial intelligence because lawyers had so many paperwork to do. So here comes artificial intelligence. Doctor need help, analyzing cancer, etc. Artificial intelligence can reduce their, sleepless night because they don't know a lot about a specific sickness, etc. That's where I think we come into the conversation. Let's sit together and make sure our communities are safer, our communities are educated, and we're working together to mitigate attacks, reduce attacks on everything.
Yeah.
We have great infrastructures. Unfortunately, it seems like we've been attacked left and right, and we haven't figured how to
Right.
defend ourselves better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to hear me?
Yes. So I think Brown County does a great job. Like you guys have the road shows where we can come and present, but we need to have more events like that. So it could be in manufacturing, it can be in cybersecurity, it can be nuclear. For us to be able to go there and expose those topics, so whenever they finish high school, they know what path to take, what skills they want to learn. And I think it's very important for us to be partners with the local industry. So whenever we're teaching things that is not something that's going to be applied for Chicago or Florida. We're applying here for the local companies in East Tennessee.
Yeah. Jeff, you want to add?
Yeah, let me further validate the problem because, one of my functions for the lab is to go out to industry and, hey, how can we help you? We're the federal government. We're here to help. And the question I ask them is, what three things keep you up at night? And, it may be cybersecurity, it may be materials issue, but I guarantee you, one of the three every single time is workforce. And they ask me the question, can you help? I'll say, let me call my friends at Rome State. And they always say, I've got to have people quicker. Is there a way that I can have a condensed program? The kind of person I need, it doesn't matter to me if they get, arts and speaking and this, that, and the other. I need them to weld, and I need them to weld good, and I need them quick. And some of this gets into, it's not necessarily a Roan State issue, but it's a TCAT issue. And so they need somebody that can be addressed. And we see the same thing, but we complicate our job descriptions by saying you need to have 2 or 3 years of experience. So and we're trying to deal with that and with our community reps to try and see how we can do a better job of hiring people. But it is a significant issue for the industry and the community. And, is it time we try something different? Is it time we pull together the education and I know you guys have regulators that make you do what you do, but is there something that we can do that the community can get around to say, let's try something different, that we can see how we can get kids into the education system, how we can get them where they need to be, and then push them out. We went down this road with STEM, and everything seemed to focus on academies and STEM and this, that, and the other. And you saw, I'm a subject of vocational school, and I'm an alum of Roan State. And so I value some of those things being there in the educational process, but how do we get some of that back? So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but it's a problem.
Well, I think it again, We're just going to stay off road, guys. We're not going to touch the script anymore. We're just going to keep talking. But so there's a couple different approaches here that I think get batted around in this general conversation about how to get workforce quicker. And it's always quicker. It's never quick enough. In economic development, especially when we're dealing with prospects, they want to know that they can get the number of workers they need when they need them, or else their business model doesn't work. So there's a couple different approaches here. One is that we start going back upstream in the educational system, in public education, to obviously build a career awareness. I think we can all agree on that. But even to start the training at an earlier age, more technical training even at an earlier age. Or we can broaden our approach where we're focusing on the soft skills needed to become a good employee, because companies want to train people to do what they want them to do on the job anyway. So those are two completely different approaches, but both are absolutely a part of the conversation. Talk to me about your perspective on what your idea of the answer may be, or where we need to be in this general topic.
You hit a vein.
That's where I was going.
Economic development. Okay, we engage the state, and where's my friend Gary Human?
That's right.
Okay, we engage our friends at the state in economic development because that's critical for what we do. We want to grow the state around the mission of the lab and the missions of the communities, and that we really try to get engaged. But what we see happening is, if we're not careful on this education side and the supply chain of workforce, we're going to start losing economic development activities. Over the last couple of years, even during the pandemic, and Gary, shake your head no if I'm telling a lie, is we accomplished some of the state's greatest economic development lands. Even though it's out in that other state on the other end of the country, Ford Blue Oval City, that was a huge project, a huge win for the state, and along with that came several other economic development wins. And we've got to gang up on this and figure out what can we do and what can we try, because if we're not careful, us as communities are going to miss out on some of these big opportunities because we're not going to be able, we'll stand up there and preach, we're ready. Yeah, we'll get you the workforce and yeah, we come here. But whenever it comes down to it, will we really be able to provide it? Because economic development, people that are companies that are looking for those economic development opportunities, it used to be, where's the site? Where's the facilities? Nope. Number one question, workforce. Where do I get my workforce? And so that's
the question.
That's the question. And so how do we do that? Well, we have to do a better job of aligning. And I know you're doing a great job with Roane County and the communities around us to try and bring that alignment together. And we're there at the table too. We have got to align, and we have got to all come together and, to support nuclear. A recent, I guess it's probably, it's been about 9 months ago, I guess, we supported the East Tennessee Economic Council to look at the nuclear supply chain and workforce and all that. And we really looked at what the needs are. And we spent a couple of days with various entities, and some of you may be in this room, of trying to figure out what are the needs and where are the gaps and how do we address this? Okay, it can't stop there. We have to now say, what is it that we can do to address these needs? And fortunately, we've made some investments in Roane State. We have some of our research teams on task to work with Joe and Roane State and that team, and we want to continue that. But it's not just about nuclear. We've got to look at all of these pieces, and really maybe we need to do one of these events around manufacturing. Maybe, for whatever it is we want to recruit, we need to get down and sit at the table and sit down and study this and get the data to say, here's where we need to go with education.
So wait, Jeff, I wanted to pick on something, maybe not pick on, but pick up on something that you said in one of your paragraphs there. One, you said that we're probably going to have to relook at our job description in terms of, the years of experience. So I would offer to you that what Roane State's doing right now is trying to work with TCAT. We're going to work on a proposal. This is just something to think about, where students that are coming out of TCAT, whether it's a welder or electrician, they'll have some skills or some education in the nuclear side. So we're going to bring some of that nuclear back to the TCAT side. And so that what you're going to get there would be as a welder that has, I'm going to call them modules, some modules taking out of the 2-year degree and pull it back to TCAT. So it's on a big picture, Jeff, it's back to what you said, everybody needs to be at the table. Yeah. It's the HR folks, it's, the educational folks and the industry, industry being the HR folks, but I'm talking about the groups that are doing the work, that's developing the job description. So we all need to be at the table to resolve this workforce challenge.
Yeah, and our HR director, he's fairly new. I think he's been there less than a year, maybe. Brian Arrington is trying to do a better job to reach out to the community and reach out to, educators and the such to say, what is it that we can do to help and change?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what happens is HR for us doesn't write the job description.
Yeah.
It's written by that hiring manager.
The functional group.
Yeah. And so the hiring
That's
manager
right.
wants the best person he can get.
Yeah.
But we always try to think, well, if they've got experience, that's better than not experience.
Right.
And that may not necessarily be the case of what we ought to pursue.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we've had a great discussion, but I learned a long time ago, and I think this may be the number one reason now they put a politician to moderate this, is that I'm standing between you and your lunch. And I learned a long time ago not to do that. So I just want to give us opportunity. Any closing thoughts? I've got one. I'm going to wrap it up at the very end. But any closing thoughts? I think it's been a fantastic discussion. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, Joe.
Yeah, I feel compelled to make one closing thought of something that keeps me up at night. I mean, we haven't talked about it, and it's on the hard pile. But as we're going to have to make sure that as students come up through middle school and high school, this came up last week in ORU's annual meeting. As we think about high schools and get the message out to work in high-risk organizations, and that means nuclear, they can't be doing anything to get themselves in trouble to, exclude them from, being in our industry. So that's the big thing there. And that's connected to, we want people with the highest integrity, commitment, and all the things, because I worry that as the workforce is changing, what's going to change with it is, lack of attention to detail and those things that we hold to the highest in the nuclear industry. And so this is an important thing that I think we need to pay attention
Great.
to in the young folks today.
Which goes back to the soft skills discussion.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Any other points?
Both are together, I think, soft skills, technical skills, and the people who do both, I think that's critical. How you adjust yourself, make sure you're doing both at the same time. I need to
Great.
be better, to present my ideas, explain my ideas, et cetera, as I move from one point to another. And I want to thank Teresa Duncan, leadership, Roane County leadership. I've done presentation on cybersecurity for the last 2 years. This year I didn't do that, but I went to ASME. So anything we do to engage our community, keep having those kind of conversation. I want to thank Mike for doing this, and hopefully you will do again, same thing again. I think I like that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anything else?
Yes, I think growing up outside of U.S., we always hear how great U.S. is and how you guys are the leader in everything that you guys do. And for the manufacturing standpoint, what we need to do as a community college to make sure United States stays number one in manufacturing. And I think partnership with the local government and the companies, I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Good point.
Jeff, anything else?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Again, Mike, I want to thank you. I want to close with a couple of thoughts that just to summarize really quickly. And I'll take. But what I've heard here today, you saw very different perspectives around this topic. But you also heard as the panel discussion went on, that they coalesced around a couple of different ideas. One of those being that alignment is absolutely critical for our ability to tackle this issue as a community, as a region, as a state even. That's going to be necessary. So that's one of our takeaways and our challenges here. And then also, too, that as we talked about soft skills versus technical skills, they're not mutually exclusive, and they should and must be done together at the same time, again, if we're going to be able to tackle this in a way that's going to help us truly make an impact in economic development in our region. Gentlemen, I really appreciate the discussion. Fantastic job. I hope our audience has been able to take away something. I think food is next. Thank you, Roan State, for hosting this today, and you all have a great afternoon.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was excellent. Spurred a couple thoughts for me, that's for sure. Have you found today to be useful or beneficial? Has it sparked some thoughts or questions? Excellent. So on the back of your name tag is a QR code that'll take you to the website that is for the symposium today. There's a tab at the very end. Please take an opportunity to go to that tab on the survey. It's 9 simple questions. It takes just a few moments to complete it, and it's absolutely essential for us to be able to report back to the Department of Labor for our grant that we're doing with this. A couple housekeeping notes. We will reconvene back here at 1:15. 115 for a panel on building an entrepreneurial ecosystem. I am super excited about what that panel is going to offer us also, because small businesses and entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of our small communities, and together with science and with industry, we all form this ecosystem. So we'll be back here at 1:15. Lunch is in the Van Student Center. We got folks that'll guide you. Just follow the folks in the gray Roan State shirts, and Christy and April will help guide that. And we'll see you guys over at lunch.